with number one.
I think it was Oscar Hammerstein who wrote a bit over 50 years ago, "There's nothing like a dame." And I don't think that could be any truer than in the case of my dame. No, not the princess. Well, Australia's grand dame, the one and only Dame Edna Everett. It's also a bit more than 50 years since Dame Edna burst like a supernova out of Mooney Ponds and really made a career out of being Dame Edna. Not many of us get to do that. I'm delighted to say, and I say it a bit emotionally because I haven't seen Dame Edna for a very, very long time, so I do say it a bit emotionally. I'm delighted to see the Dame sitting in front of me in the studio. Dame
Good morning, John. I've sat here too, submerged in emotion. My eyes are moist. I'm moist everywhere, as a matter of fact. Just to be in your presence again. And then these lovely studios, John.
Now, don't change the subject. I just felt that I'd not seen you for a long time, and I thought, in fact, I said to somebody fairly recently, I wonder, is the flame extinguished? I wonder, is it at least dying out? I mean, you and I used to see each other have a wonderful... You once wrote a marvellous piece of poetry for me.
I'm updating that poem.
Are you really?
I am, John, but you are just as you always were. And the emotion that I feel seeing you sitting in this beautiful studio with such a lovely view, which you keep preventing me from talking about, it restores those feelings that I had. We had something going, didn't we, John?
Well, we did. I mean, and I used to often in private play the piece of poetry you wrote for me.
Did you?
Yeah.
How private?
Well, very private.
Very
We
private.
won't go into that. But
What did you do as you listened to it?
I'd feel good and
Lovely. And did you caress
yes,
all those
yeah, but
lovely
yeah.
gold appendages you have?
Yeah, but-
I'm watching John across this desk, our ankles interlocked beneath it. And John is, well, he's got a lovely gold watch, a gold ring, and gold earphones, haven't you?
Yes, well, they were a present.
Are they solid gold?
They are, yes, which makes my head very heavy, but it was a nice gesture on somebody's part. Now,
Beautiful gesture.
tell me about Back with a Vengeance. I thought that was the Lord's. Didn't he say, "Vengeance is mine"?
I think he might have. I don't identify with the Almighty, of course not.
But
No blasphemy in my show.
do you talk to him ever?
Well, I do, and more often than not, I think he talks to me. I've been asking a lot of questions of my higher power of late, and I've been hoping very, very much that he is going to encourage as many little Sydney-siders as possible to hurry along to the capital. Did you know they wanted to pull that down a few years ago, John?
I know they did.
They want to pull everything down in Sydney, and they succeeded on the whole.
They really did, and there were some seriously beautiful buildings in Sydney, all gone.
Oh, John, but the capital actually slipped through the net, thank goodness, because I needed a venue for my Back with a Vengeance show, and I've tried this show out. I had to get it ready for Sydney, and I found this little provincial city of Melbourne, where I was born, and they adored it, so I've groomed it, I've honed it, I've brought it to a state of excited perfection.
Tell me about it. Why is it called Back? It's the vengeance part that bothers me.
Well, it just gives it a sort of cutting edge.
Well, it does,
It
yes.
sounds a bit savage and in your face,
Oh,
doesn't
you-
it really?
You're using all
But
those...
I'm not vengeful, really.
No, you're not.
It means
I'm
I'm coming back to Sydney with force, with energy, with all those wonderful qualities for which I'm famous. And do you know, well, you and I are celebrating our 50 years in the business simultaneously, aren't we, John?
Yes, well, that...
You
yes.
started in Bendigo,
True.
on that little wireless station down there when they called it the wireless.
And they did call it the wireless?
They did, and then you were with a number of little stations and doing all sorts of things. And very early on, listeners, there was a television program when television was barely black and white. And there was a
Faded grey.
program called Star Time. Do you remember that?
How can I forget it?
It was Star Time, and it was compared by a rangy, handsome, lovely, suntanned, sexy little fellow called John Laws, and you introduced me. You said, our next guest is a housewife from Melbourne who is, we think, is going to go places, and you did the introduction, and I've got a copy of that broadcast.
Have you really?
I do.
Really? Well, isn't
And
that nice?
you look lovely, and I look even lovelier. And it's historic, John. Our careers have been linked in so many ways.
They have been. I think yours perhaps more interesting than mine. I mean, you've done so many things.
Well, you are there behind the microphone. You
I'm a bit
can't
stuck.
move. You're a bit stuck.
Yeah.
And I, of course, am mobile. I'm all over the place. And since Norm died, of course, I've been freed. I don't have to go rushing to his facility to see that his ducting isn't tangled up. He was a wonderful person. Did you ever know my husband?
You told me so much about him.
You feel you did?
I knew it.
He was adorable, but he's gone, and it's a big relief, really. I missed him for a minute or two.
What's happened to Madge?
Madge I sent back to New Zealand. Listeners, Madge Alsop was my bridesmaid. As a matter of fact, Madonna, who adores me and stalks me in a spooky kind of way, calls herself Madge, hoping that I will appoint her as my new bridesmaid, but I won't.
No, but you're not planning marriage.
No. Well, I have contemplated it. There have been a few offers. But on the whole, I prefer freedom. Marriage, I think... Yeah, I couldn't face it again. I married too young. I married an older man. I married a man with serious urological problems. The plumbing, I mean, even on our wedding night, John, I don't know if you know that, but he was up and down all the time. Not in the way you think. Not in the way you think. By the way, listeners, if you're driving, pull over. It's not a good idea to listen to John Laws and me if you are behind the wheel of a speeding car.
Or operating heavy machinery.
Or operating even light plastic machinery, ladies.
Who's going to win the election in Australia?
Well, it's getting to be a little bit difficult, isn't it, after the budget? A lot of people were thinking, by the way, I mean, I don't know, I'm a non-political person, but do we want a Prime Minister called Kevin? Kevin.
It doesn't
Think
have...
about it, John.
It doesn't have that
Think about it.
ring of statesmanship about it, does it?
Does not.
Not like Tony.
Not, oh, poor old Tony.
He's gone now.
Well, I knew that family very well. They sought my counselling, the Blairs.
Did you like her? Be honest.
Look, no.
No.
The mouth was too wide.
Yes,
Too wide. And she had it widened. She had cosmetic surgery. Have you ever heard of anything so extraordinary?
Have you noted the way, and you've never had to resort to this,
No, I
thank God.
luckily have not. You see me as I have developed. I've evolved, and you certainly haven't had any, John.
No, natural
You could do with a
beauty.
bit,
in that.
actually.
No, yes, you've
A little
quite right
nip
there.
and a tuck.
What you have, however, is natural beauty, you see, and we don't, and you have...
And John's ankles are tightening around mine now, Possums, under this desk.
and you also
Lovely, the old electricity is still flowing between us.
you also have a word that I'm loath to use
What?
on radio, but in your case I will, because
Make this a first, Lawsy.
you have sex appeal.
Sex appeal? I never really thought about that. One of the things I do before a big show like this, which is opening, of course, next week at the Capitol in Sydney, but I have a check-up, I have an exploratory. I travel with my own gynecologist, John. He's a lovely fellow. He's the son of Julio Iglesias. I interviewed little Julio many, many years ago.
Funny little chap, isn't he?
Oh, adorable.
Handsome.
He's adorable. And I asked him about his parents. He said his father was a gynecologist in Madrid. And he said to me later, no one has ever asked me about my father. Do you know, I looked him up. He's a lovely old man, and I employed him. He's here. He's in Sydney. He's very old. His hand shakes badly. But you know, ladies, not always a disadvantage, is it? It isn't, John. And I don't have much I can say to him, you know. I mean, the only Spanish words I know are tapas and ole.
Yes, the second one's got a
Second one quite handy. I
Yeah.
mean, isn't it, ladies? I mean, there are moments
especially for a
when we can
gynecologist.
say he's adorable. He always travels with a little speculum in his pocket.
Tell me,
I said, is that a speculum in your pocket, or are you just pleased to see me?
Dame Edna, you're becoming risque.
I shouldn't be risque. You bring it out in me,
Yes,
John. I'm a very, very wholesome woman, and I'm a family entertainer.
I wanted to ask you about the clothes because I looked at this photograph here.
Yes,
I mean, that's
one
a-
of the papers.
Yeah, the Sydney Morning
I
Herald
have lovely
Metro.
dresses. I've got the wardrobe I'm going to be wearing at the Capitol when my show opens.
Are you going to be
It's
wearing that?
adorable. No, I've superseded that with something.
It's rather glamorous, that
Oh,
one.
it is glamorous. You know, there was a time, John, about the time of Star Time when you introduced me to the Australian television public for the first time. I was a frump. I really was.
A frump.
I made Amanda Vanstone look well dressed. And, by the way, I'm counselling her at the moment. She's going to Rome to represent Australia, as you know.
She's a dear girl.
Sending a man that is the most fashionable, chicest, and most sophisticated city in the world. What a shock she'll be to them. What a breath of fresh air when they see her wearing those Target shirts, those Hawaiian numbers over her fawn skirts. It'll be a big surprise. But I've been helping her with table manners and all that sort of thing.
And I think she's a good learner.
Oh, well, she's got a lot to learn.
I'm not sure you should be teaching her table manners. I think she spends enough time there without learning how to do it better.
Yes, probably. Oh, dear. Perhaps eating the peas off her knife, as she usually does, might keep the weight down a little bit, might, because they keep rolling off. However, the dresses that I'm going to be wearing are all designed by my son, Kenny.
Kenny.
And I'm lucky. It's all in the family. It's all in-house.
Yeah, well, you know,
Shouldn't we be having a commercial?
No, do it. No, I don't want a commercial. Do you want a commercial?
Well, no, not particularly, but it's strange chatting away like this.
Well, I've set aside time.
John, how
I mean,
lovely.
we only have brief
So
moments
after
together.
I've been speaking to you, people are going to have to listen to half an hour of commercials. Well, there are always lovely ones on your programme.
Aren't they? They're very classy commercials.
Incidentally,
I'm listening.
do you know where 2UE comes from?
Do I want to know?
Do you know the origin of 2UE?
No.
You don't. Well, UE stands... Well, it used to be the other way around. It used
United
to be
Electronics.
EU. No. It used to be the letter 2, the number 2, and then EU, Electrical Utilities.
You're right.
And a man who had a little shop of electrical utilities, goodness knows what sort of things he sold, electrical things that women like, and he started a little wireless station and called it 2 Electrical Utilities, but it sounded a bit funny, so they changed it around. And that's something I don't think many of our listeners, including my lovely host and boyfriend, John Laws, didn't know.
You're quite right. You've embarrassed me now. I might have to have a commercial. We'll hesitate.
Oh, a commercial. I put the idea in your head. But I think this is one, if it's the one I'm thinking of, it's well worth listening to, possums.
Are you ready?